You have to bear with me. I lost my voice yesterday, and then I've been having to talk all day today. So fingers crossed that we can make it 30 more minutes. Anyway, all right. Well, let's go ahead and hop in here today. Again, thanks so much, guys, for joining us. See a lot of familiar faces in here. Appreciate you guys coming on here every week. My name is Ryan Dosen, Director of Sales here at Host, joined by Chris Clements, VP of Sales, and Eric Laskowski is here as well from the team, and they're going to be here to help with the chat and answer questions if you guys have questions along the way. Please feel free to go ahead and type those in. Eric and Chris can probably get you good answers while I'm blabbing here in the background. Before we get into beating Toast, just again, a little bit about Host and about the series. Okay, so again, a lot of you are our agents here, partner agents with us, and you know that your success as agents, independent sales agents, is our top priority. We're committed to you guys to deliver you not only exceptional support, but also dedicated guidance, fast responses, real solutions to get your merchants up and running, and also, just great additional insight into how to get out there into the field and win more business. So a lot of you show up here on a weekly basis, and hope you've learned a lot. Now, I know I've gotten a lot of positive feedback that a lot of you feel like it's very helpful. So we're going to keep bringing that to you because we are committed to having you guys win as much out there with our partnership. You and your merchants get 24/7 US-based technical support in addition to your personal relationship managers that already know your business and help get your merchants streamline approvals. Here at Host, you guys have access to a fairly unmatched selection of payment technologies so that you're able to make sure that you're, no matter what the merchant is and what their needs are, you've got a great tech solution that can be a win for them. We're going to talk specifically about Toast and the tech solutions we have here to help you get out there and win business away from Toast. We're going to have a lot more webinars coming up about some of our in-house technology. A lot of you have already boarded merchants with us, taking advantage of the Cloud Manager Suite, software suite. Just so you know, you all have been introduced to, I think, 4 different Cloud Manager Suite softwares between Cloud Studio, Cloud Rental, Cloud Job, and Cloud Donor. There's a lot more coming. So you're going to see in the coming weeks, we've got a lot more coming for you guys, both in terms of tools for your merchants to help win the business, also tools for you to just help make your lives easier outside of the cloud Manager Suite. We've also been in development and working on creating our own in-house CRM that'll eventually be shared with you all, the agents as well. And that's coming too. So we're really excited about all that. But before we get to all that down the line, we're here today to talk about beating Toast. So let's get into that. Share my screen. All right. Slideshow. All right. So again, welcome back to the sales trenches, solution-based selling in the real world. Again, the goal of this series is to give you guys real world advice, actionable stuff that you can do to get out and win business today. Okay. And one of the big players, of course, in the restaurant space is Toast. Toast is a locked system. And we want to be able to win that business away from them. So we're going to try to give you guys a bunch of helpful information today that's going to help you get out, start conversations, ask the right questions, have the ability to press on particular pain points that these merchants that are already working with Toast are having, some of the fear-based things and reasons why they haven't moved, and how you can overcome those objections and reasons and win them over and bring them into your residuals and profit center while making their lives better. All right. So again, what we're going to cover today, we've got, first of all, we're going to cover how Toast won in the beginning. Okay. They scooped up a ton of the market share. How did they do that and why that is changing? We're going to cover some of the things that have happened, like rate hikes. We're going to cover why merchants feel stuck and how you can help get them, first of all, help them feel a way to escape being stuck and how to move them over, how to conduct a conversation that's going to open the door to allowing them to actually hear you out. A lot of these people feel like they're kind of trapped in that ecosystem, and there's no sense in trying to get out. We need to be able to at least open the door to the conversation and get them to consider some things that they probably don't know. The technology we're going to focus on a little bit today, and it's going to be the technology that is probably going to help you win the business from Toast is Clover, and we're going to talk a little bit about that, and we'll close with a few other things. All right, so first of all, how Toast won. All right, so Toast won by subsidizing everything to create a dependency, okay? But that era is over, all right? So free equipment, zero upfront hardware cost, low rates, subsidized pricing made them an obvious choice for restaurants, okay? They had in-person installs. I don't know if you can see that. I can't see that. They had in-person installs. Someone would actually show up at the door, and it was a high trust situation and an easy yes. They were basically following kind of the classic VC playbook, okay? We're going to take a loss in order to gain market share and dependency and then monetize it later. Worked like a charm, okay? They got a bunch of merchants to adopt it. They took a loss, but eventually, as we'll kind of cover here in a few minutes, the mothership could only take losses for so long. And they actually announced their plan for how they were going to, slowly bleed the merchants more and more over time to help bring better profitability. So again, a bit of a bait and switch, depending upon when, if you have a Toast merchant, depending upon when they joined Toast, they may have joined, when it really was an absolute no-brainer, and it maybe isn't so much of a no-brainer now, maybe not even a decision that they would make today to go with Toast, but again, they've kind of been trapped by becoming dependent, on the system. They were actually genuinely good for merchants there in the beginning. The free equipment was great. Someone would show up at their door to install the equipment. They had relatively low rates. They made it very easy. And that was the pitch. It worked. 140,000 locations, didn't happen by mistake. Okay. So that's how they kind of gained their market share, and it really worked well. But that model now has a second chapter, and that chapter is kind of where we come in. So let's go ahead and move on to the next. All right, so what's happened since kind of the fairy tale beginning? Re-rate hikes in 16 months, okay? The VC squeeze happened. All right, so in 2023, they added a 99-cent per order fee on orders over $10. This was reversed after merchants and medium backlash, but then it was quietly reinstated. Okay, so you may have merchants that maybe even haven't been paying a ton of attention. They might have thought that it's been reversed and that it's not there, but it actually is back. In September of 24, processing rate increase of 0.05% to 0.23% on all card present, Visa, MasterCard, Discover. This was done quietly, but it was flagged by an analyst, in an investor note. Now, ongoing, and this is very important, okay? Toast CEO said in the Q1 2024 earnings call on record, we are going to take, here, it's right down here, we are going to take pricing over time, okay? It's going to be an ongoing cadence of small, steady changes in price. Okay. And so he was very clear as to what's going to happen. Now, these merchants may not be aware of it. I mean, everyone in today's society is kind of become unfortunately accustomed to prices going up and hikes happening. But a lot of your merchants may not know that their CEO is actually on the record saying, we're doing this. Your rates are going up over time. So where does that come in with us? I mean, well, it's pretty obvious where it comes with us, especially those of you that are already partner agents with us. When you board with Host, we guarantee that pricing for life. Okay. So if they're tired of getting bled more and more every month, well, got great news. When you board with Host, your rates are guaranteed for life. Your rates and fees are guaranteed for life. So while the system you're in currently is guaranteed to go up over time with us, you're guaranteed to get what you're agreeing to right now, and it's going to stay there. Okay. So again, that's significant. I think a lot of people don't know this, especially your merchants may not know this, but the fact that you're able to go in with their CEO being on the record that, oh, it's going to continue to raise, that's a big deal. Just a quick note. So Toast CEO told Wall Street on a public earnings call, yes, we're going to take pricing over time. So again, when you're walking into a Toast merchant and they say they're happy, you ask, are you happy about the rate hike in 2024? Are you looking forward to the next one? Oh, when's that going to be? Well, their CEO guaranteed it. Okay. All right. So a little bit about math. Okay. So the 0.23%, which to a lot of people might sound small increase, it really isn't that abstract. Okay. You're able to make that real. So, on a monthly volume, a restaurant doing 50K in volume, you're able to come in and you should know, okay, this is what that last increase cost them. So when you're going into the restaurant, you have this information in for you. Okay, that rate hike cost you $1,400. Or if they're a 100K a month restaurant, the last rate hike cost you $3,000 a year. Well, what's going to happen when they do the next one? 3 could go to 6. And again, Toast CEO promised investors that there's going to be an ongoing cadence of increases. Okay, so that's something that you can definitely continue to lean on there. All right. Now, it's important to get into the psychology of these owners, right? Because we need to understand what they're thinking, what they're afraid of, why they might feel stuck if we're going to get them to move. A lot of this is pretty obvious, okay? But why merchants might feel stuck, okay? So first of all, every terminal, KDS, handheld, it's a sunk cost, right? So nobody likes taking a loss. Switching feels like they're starting over. They're thinking there's going to be a big investment, and there will be an investment. But it's your job to kind of reframe, away from the cost or investment in switching to making sure they're aware of, hey, you paid this with this rate hike that happened a couple of years ago, you've paid this much additional per year, which would have paid for those, that additional Clover. And then the next one, wind up doubling that. Okay, staff retraining fear. Okay, restaurant owners dread the learning curve. They assume any change is going to be equal to downtime. Yeah, I mean, staff retraining is a genuine fear, and going to a new ecosystem, there will be some things that are different. But like many things in life, we tend to overblow things. People tend to be very adaptable and learn fast. Also, with Host, we're the standard in terms of customer service and support. Okay, Eric and his team are able to do everything they can to make sure that these new devices, the Clover devices, are programmed so in such a way that the migration or the shift from working in Toast versus working in Clover, can be as close as possible so that the retraining costs time costs, effort costs, all that can be minimized. Okay. Many of them might feel like all processors are the same. Well, most merchants don't know there's a meaningfully cheaper path with real support. Okay. So again, in this case, processor's not the same, and the biggest example was what we talked about just a minute ago. You know, in addition to the 24/7 US-based customer service, this processor host is not going to be raising their costs. And data migration anxiety, menu data, customer history reporting, it feels risky even when it isn't. Okay. So again, our support team is going to be able to help with migrating everything over and having it be as relatively seamless or as similar to the previous setup as possible. It's an understandable anxiety, but at the same time, it's, when the merchant can understand that, hey, there's going to be a white glove, very hands-on, US-based team that's going to help segue us over into this new system, that certainly makes it seem a lot more attractive and easier of an option. Okay. All right. So opening the door, some things that you're not going to want to do. Obviously, you're not going to want to be like, hey, I see you're using Toast. I've got this great system, Clover. You do need to get to the pain. We've talked a lot about that in our Sell Smarter series and many other webinars. Okay. So, did Toast notify you about their rate increase in September of 24? Did you know that their CEO publicly told investors more increases are coming and coming regularly? What would it mean for your bottom line to cut processing costs this year, right? And with some of the numbers that we talked about before, you can maybe even bring a more specific example. What would, if we were able to cut your processing costs by, $5,000 a year, how would that, what else could you do with your business, to make it better? Or obviously you've got more that you can take home there. All right, so where Clover wins right now. So Clover wins certainly on processing costs. You're able to price, based upon your Schedule A that you have here with Host, which is we have very, very strong buy rates, and you're going to be able to significantly undercut Toast, and you're going to also be able to guarantee that there aren't going to be any rate hikes. Okay. 24/7 US-based customer service, and there's no ongoing rate hike cadence baked into our model. Okay. The winning pitch, we're not going to try to win necessarily on features. We're going to win on cost and support. Okay. They're already probably pretty happy with the features that they have on Toast, even though maybe they aren't. They're probably pretty happy with that, but you're going to win on cost and support. You're going to win on price sensitivity and support frustration are an all-time high among Toast merchants. Okay. And partnering with Host and Clover is going to help you solve both. All right. Two problems, one conversation. All right. So Toast merchants are paying for both processing and expensive SaaS tools. Okay. So they have the higher processing rates, ongoing rate hike cadence. They have their Toast software plan. Not to be fair, they're software plans for Clover too. They've got proprietary hardware that's where they're being locked in, and there's no US-based support in many cases. And again, we talked about when they're with HMS, lower processing costs, US-based customer support, and hardware flexibility, no proprietary lock-in. All right, so your script in one page. So we gave you a couple kind of intros before, but we want to leave you kind of with a few moves here that you can bring, directly to these restaurants. Okay, so quick question: did Toast notify you about the rate increase in 2024? And then obviously we talked about their CEO told investors publicly more rates are coming on a regular basis. So then let's do some math. So what's your monthly volume? Let me show you what that cost increase is going to do for you on a year-over-year basis. What's going to happen the next time? We gave you some numbers earlier in here. And again, you've got relationship managers. Reach out to your RMs if you've got a special case that you want us to run some numbers for, and we can help you with that. Okay. So again, You want to frame yourself also as someone that works with restaurants, specializing in restaurants that are switching over from toast. It's easier than you think, and I can show you what you'd save. Okay, we've talked a lot about the consultative approach to selling. Okay, and again, you want to position yourself when you're going into a restaurant as someone obviously that specializes in restaurants. And in this case, you want to position yourself as someone that acts as a consultant for restaurants, especially that are working with toast and looking to move to a better long-term solution for their business. All right, more ammunition is coming. All right, so we're not going to reveal any details today on today's webinar, but we do want you to know that we're actively developing additional partnerships and solutions to combat toast specifically. Clover is the current primary weapon that we're using to go after toast merchants, but we do have more partnerships coming and coming soon. Be on the lookout. Ask if this is a particular vertical that you're thinking about going after. I want to encourage you to stay in touch with your relationship manager. You can contact me specifically once we can officially announce these additional partnerships and these additional tools for going after restaurants. You all will be the first, to be made aware of it, and I'm sure we'll be doing another webinar about that. But again, right now, everything you need is the rate hike story. They're either aware of it and they're not happy about it and they feel a bait and switch, or they're not aware of it and then they're going to feel like they've had the wool pulled over them, right? And that, it was a bait and switch they didn't even realize happened, and they've just been too busy running their business and world to even realize how much more is getting bled by the company that promised them one thing and is delivering, something else. All right. So again, you have toast merchants in your pipeline. We all, at differing levels of hotness, so to speak, right? We all know restaurant owners. We all have restaurants that we go to, and a lot of them use toast. So want to really encourage you all to, if this has been a vertical that you've maybe given up on, or at least this situation when you've got a toast merchant and you're like, well, I can't, the business is not winnable. Hopefully this did give you some ammunition that can be used, to at least get in and start a conversation, some pain points that you can press on. We all have restaurants. We've all seen toast in a lot of places. And a lot of times, we'll look at that as, oh, we know that's closed and we can't get it. But it certainly is possible. But you got to get the merchants to their pain. Now you know the pain. All right. So again, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm not sure if there were any unanswered questions. I want you all to know that we're going to continue, with this series here, with the Sales Trenches series. I mentioned that we do have some additional tools coming for you. We just got out of our big product, a big product meeting a couple of minutes ago, and there's, what was it, guys? I think it was at least 10 different products that are going to be coming soon. So just be on the lookout. Keep up with your email. I'm going to probably be unveiling at least a couple of those softwares over here in the next couple of in the next month, actually. So I don't know if there will be a new product next week, but if not next week, you're going to have a new product revealed, at least one of them, in the next 2 weeks. Guys, thank you so much. Be on the lookout for another episode of The Trenches next week. Hope you all found this useful. Reach out to me or your relationship manager if you do have any questions, so we can help you get out there and win some of this toast business. Have a great week, and I'll talk to you soon.